Alright guys, so this is going to be my review, a rather late review of last week's episode of Constantine. Now, this episode, and yes, I know the show is being canceled after episode 13. I think they're going to just run through the rest of the episodes, and there is talk of, like, people are trying to save it, but that hardly works. I'm sorry to say. I hate to sound like a jerk, but these things usually don't do well. When you try to save a show with like petitions or something, it usually gets blowed over, and yeah, it really sucks. It really does, because I really liked this show. I really did. But now I'm just like, man, it's going to leave off at this whole thing of what the rising darkness is and all that, and then, damn it. So, let's talk a bit about this episode. Let's talk about Constantine. Let's talk about this episode. So this episode doesn't have Zed in it. Zed has gone away to work on an art class, and it's only Constantine and Kaz. So what's happened is that something's going on in Alabama. There's been a massive, two parents have been killed, and only the daughter has been spared. And as Constantine's looking around for any demonic presence, he runs into Manny, the angel. And this is what the episode's main focus is the focus between Manny and John in this episode. It's more or less a focus on those two. So, anyway, what was I going to do? What was I going to say? So anyway, yeah, it's when John discovers that, the kid is being possessed by a dark spirit, and now it's moving on to another kid. It's now being let loose in the city. It can now prey on another kid. The kid in question, who is the next victim, is a little guy named Henry who's scared of everything. He has an overprotective mother and an overbearing father. How wonderful. I can't really say much about the parents because they're just like, oh, okay. The mom gets a little more character development, but the dad is just like, I'm the dad and I don't believe any of this is happening. The mom's like, kind of like that at the start, but then she's like, I just want to save my kid. Give her a little more credit. Henry himself is just a little meh, but when he is possessed by the dark spirit, that is the point when, he actually he's kind of creepy, and you're kind of like, man, he's very unsettling. He's just got that look. He just has this look of like, yeah, he's about to do something bad every time you see him. Just every time you see him, something bad's about to happen. So John and Kaz are trying to work out this situation, and I feel like this episode dropped the ball on a few things. I just feel like this episode dropped the ball on just a few points. First off, I'd really like to see, John's reaction to the rising darkness. We get more stuff. We get more stuff to the rising darkness in general in this episode. We really do. We get more reference to them. We also get the mention of the Sword of Might. Shout out to all major DC Mystic fans out there. That was really cool. We also got a little more of Chaz's past, inadvertently. But the main thing I want to talk about is that this doesn't really talk about, because Papa Midnight, thanks to his sister Soul, who's in hell, pretty much said, look, you're going to get betrayed by someone very close to you. And I feel like this should have touched a little more on it, just kind of touching more on what's going on in the world around them. I kind of wish John was a little more paranoid and not trusting either Zed or Kaz. I feel like that would have been built up more on this episode. The other thing is that this episode deals with the whole child exorcism thing, and John clearly has bad memories of that, with Astra accidentally sending her to hell. And don't get me wrong, they do touch on that a bit, but I feel like they should have gone a little deeper into that, because John says multiple times child exorcisms are really tough in here, and at the end of the episode, it's kind of easy. I'm going to spoil that right now. Yeah, he gets rid of the spirit really quick because, there's a reason. They kind of touch on why that's a little easier, but I feel like you kept going throughout this entire episode of child exorcisms are difficult. They may get killed or something else may happen, but that just felt like it was really nothing, really. So anyway, Henry is possessed, and John is trying to find a way to get to the kid and exorcise the spirit within him. And he also gets help from an old friend of his who was married to, I believe, Boston Brand. Yeah, we don't really get Boston's name. We don't get really a name of Boston Brand, but what we do get is the white. And the other thing is that Boston, I don't think, was married. So, but all it did was that her husband. All he did was possess people and whine about how much he was dead until John helped him cross over. So I'm guessing that was a Dead Man reference. That could have been. I don't know. Maybe someone else can correct me. I don't know. It just felt like how they were talking about the little references here and there. Was like, oh, is that Dead Man they were talking about? That'd be cool, because I know we are getting Dead Man. We are getting the Spectre. Well, we're probably not now, thanks to the cancellation. How wonderful. But anyway, I digress. So apparently this isn't the first time parents have been murdered and the child has been spared. What has happened is that this goes all the way back to like 35 years ago, to when a kid who had these really incredibly shitty parents just went out and butchered these two kids, butchered his parents after years of abuse. So John goes to go see the guy, and it turns out the lights are on, but nobody's home. And at this point, I'm like, I think I figured out what's going on here. I think I figured it out. If you haven't noticed already, this is kind of a weak episode. I'm sorry to say, this is kind of a weak episode. Matt Ryan is still a great Constantine, and there's nothing really bad about it. There's some definitely creepy moments in here, and there are a few good points here and there. But, on a whole, this is kind of a weak episode. This is kind of just a weak episode. Maybe that is to me. But yeah, John, eventually, after the kid injures a guy, injures a bully in school, he disguises himself as the guidance counselor to try to exorcise the kid, and the father just punches him out, and he wakes up in jail, gets to talk to Manny. And I like this scene when he's talking to Manny, because Manny said earlier that when humans were given the ability of free will, angels lost any and all influence on them. So that's why angels can't really directly influence certain events. They can only guide. That's all that the angels can do, whereas demons can do a lot more. So yeah. And Manny talks about, John pretty much, yells at him saying, you've never done anything for me, and Manny's like, dude, I have done a lot for you. I guided you to keep you from committing suicide, and I stayed with you the entire time every time your father beat the shit out of you all the damn time. So I think it's really cool of how this like I said, this episode focuses on Constantine and Manny more than anything else, and how Manny's still trying to help out in these kind of situations. So eventually, Henry's getting worse to the point where he's about to kill somebody, and Henry's mom goes to Constantine, bails him out, drops the charges, and asks him to help perform a seance. To which, what happens next is that Henry's mom, John, and Kaz go out to the site of the first area, because John has tracked these things called like ley lines that it's basically a spirit system that spirits and demons track. And from there they hold a seance, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And then John figures it all out. And before trying to exorcise the spirit, Henry runs off, and John chases him through this. There's actually a nice little reference to a cover of Hellblazer, which I thought was pretty clever. And that's when John discovers, that first guy who's in the hospital, he's just been comatose because what he did was so traumatic. His soul left his body. So John exorcises the soul very easily, might I add, even though saying multiple times it's kind of difficult. He exorcises the soul of the first killer, goes back into him, and John says, look, hopefully he'll get enough treatment and we can be done with this whole mess. And yeah, John goes about his merry way. Yeah. Once again, not a bad episode, but definitely if I was to say this is probably the weakest episode so far. But yeah, anyway, once again, hope you all enjoyed this. Really hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. You guys tell me, what did you all think of this? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think we got a reference to Dead Man or something else? Anyway, that's pretty much does it for my review, so I will see you guys later.